Hi there craft beer fans, so it's Jeremy back again, Craft Beer Jeremy from craftbeeradvocate.co.uk. Slightly different change to the video this time. It's not a tasting, but what it is instead is a talk about homebrewing. So I used to do a lot of homebrewing in the UK before moving over to the US. Used to start out with extract, move on to all grain and did all sorts of things, so like sour fermentation as well with lactobacillus and Brettanomyces. But really haven't moved to the US, living in an apartment. I've had to scale back on the equipment. I can't have stainless steel everywhere. So this video is basically a short kind of video around what equipment I have, a homebrew I've done recently actually, so transferring into secondary fermentation today, and pretty much that's like going to cover it. So first of all, I'm just going to introduce you to the equipment I've bought, what I'm using it for, why I bought it, what's the aim of it, and how I'm going to, what sort of brews I'm going to do going forwards. So to talk you through it, first of all, I have a 20 quart, so 4 and a bit gallon boil kettle. Basically, it's quite nice stainless steel. It's got markings for volume etched on it and things like that, so that's really useful. I then have a couple of 3-gallon carboys, which both have lids and bubblers on the top of them, and what you can see in here is actually the end of primary fermentation for the brew I've done recently. I also have some Star San from 5 Star Chemicals for my sanitation purposes, a big metal spoon for stirring. I have an aerator, so this is to help get additional oxygen into the worts before pitching the yeast. I have a hydrometer and a measuring cylinder, so I can measure the starting gravity of my beer, which is basically a measure of the amount of fermentable sugar in there, so I can get an idea of the final alcohol content. In addition, I have a old school laboratory thermometer, an auto siphon device, and then a couple of mesh bags. So the sort of brews that I'm basically doing with this are going to be extract brews. And what that is I'm going to use dried malt extract along with some actual grains, so my specialty grains for the recipes, which I'm going to steep. And this is pretty much your introductory sort of style of brews other than the beer kits. I'm not such a big fan of beer kits personally, because I like to go and look at my ingredients, see when the manufacture dates were, get the freshest yeast possible, because I feel that really has a big impact on the flavour of the beer that I'm making and what I'm going to do with it. So with this, I've actually sort of designed my own recipe. It's a semi-sessionable IPA where I'm using Pilsner, like Pilsen DME, so dried malt extract is the major component, but then also some Cara Munich just to give it a bit of colour, a bit of flavour, a bit of body. Some malted dextrose as well, so to add a bit of mouthfeel and body to the beer, because it's a slightly lower alcohol content, so I don't want it to be too thin. It's fairly aggressively hopped in the aroma at the end, but a really minor hop addition at the 60-minute boil point to add a tiny bit of bitterness to the beer, because I like it to be slightly bitter and it's more to style with an IPA than a pale ale in that case. Then it's fairly heavily hopped at the 10-minute to go and the flame out, so when I stop the boil, with Citra, Centennial and Simcoe. And then it's kind of left in primary fermentation for a week before then transferring to secondary, where towards the end of the 2 weeks in secondary, I'm then going to add additional hops, so more Citra, more Simcoe, some Motueka from New Zealand just to give a bit of that lemon characteristic as well, and some of the kind of tropical fruit, passion fruit sort of area. And yeah, so I'm hoping it's going to be pretty tasty. So what we can really see with this is actually that in the primary, you can see what was the Krausen on top there, so that's where the active fermentation has taken place. All the sort of residues come up as CO2s come through. Also what we can see at the bottom is the kind of yeast cake there as well. And so this is now, it's nice and clear because everything's dropped out of solution, so it's now ready to transfer to the secondary. So the main thing before doing this is cleanliness and sanitation. They are absolutely key with this, to prevent any beer spoilage, anything like that. So really what I need to do with this glass carboy, first of all, is I need to wash it out. So I use washing up liquid and water for a couple of times first, before then moving on to using Star San from 5 Star Chemicals as my sanitation solution. And basically what it says on there is exactly how to use it. So I'm just going to follow the instructions straight away and do as it says, allow it to air dry, and then I'm going to also sanitize my auto siphon at the same time. And I'm also then, after transferring into the secondary, I'm going to take a section of the water and put it in to measure the gravity change so I can get an idea of the alcohol content before moving on. So that's pretty much what I'm going to do now. The next part you'll see is the auto siphon, so just bear with me whilst I get through the cleaning part first. Okay, so what we're now doing here is the auto siphon from the fermentation vessel into the secondary. So we can kind of see that this is now going, and basically the aim of this is to kind of make sure that we don't introduce as little oxygen as possible into this, and also keep it as sanitary as possible. So everything has been, the auto siphon, the secondary fermenter has been sanitized, and now we're just kind of transferring it into it to keep it away from this sediment at the bottom, which is also known as the trube. And this is kind of mainly dead yeast cells and things like that as well. So that's the kind of whole aim of this right now, is to separate the two out, because if you leave it on the trube, it can cause a variety of off flavors and things like that, which we kind of want to avoid. So you can see the clarity of this is much better now as well. And I'm not worried about all these bubbles because StarSan is a no rinse sanitizer, so it doesn't impact the flavor at the end either, which is really great. Okay, so that's everything successfully transferred into the secondary. Now it's just a case of waiting a couple of weeks before bottling. So as you can see, there's a little bit left over there because my siphon's not quite long enough, but it's not too much. It's probably just a couple of bottles. And the majority of it has gone into here, and the clarity is pretty good. There was very low oxygen ingress, and I've stuck my bubbler on the top, which is filled with StarSan. Everything's closed, it's ready to go. So that is pretty successful, I think. You take the final hydrometer reading from the primary fermentation, and this is pretty much what you end up with, is a cylinder full of your fermented wort with the hydrometer in it. And really it is going to be, you need it to basically be lifted off the bottom to get a true reading. And if we come up and look at the top, you can roughly see there, it's pretty hard to tell actually, but especially with the resolution on this, it looks like from the specific gravity reading, you want to read it at the meniscus. So that looks like 0.102 to my mind. So the meniscus is where the bottom of the liquid basically cuts across the hydrometer. So actually from a start of 1.504, which was all the way down here, it's actually dropped quite a lot in terms of its ABV. So it's probably gone around 5% roughly. So there's different online calculators you can use for this. I use a specific one which I'll go and work out the calculation later, but it looks like it's been a pretty successful primary ferment. So now it's just a case of allowing the beer to clear a bit more, get some like stuff drop out of it, maybe ferment that final bit down to as close to 0.1 as possible, and we'll kind of see where we go with it. So yeah, I'm pretty pleased with that overall. So sorry, 1.0 overall is the final aim, and yeah, it's pretty good. So I quite often give it a spin so it can sort of settle itself out a bit more, and that's where we go with it. So it looks like it's settling really nicely around, yeah, 1.014, which is really good. So there we go. In this case, extract brews, a short video on using the auto siphon for transfer to the secondary fermenter, as well as use of the hydrometer in a little bit. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I'd love to hear your comments and feedback. So subscribe to the channel on YouTube, so YouTube Craft Beer Advocate. I can be found on Twitter at Craft Beer Jeremy, same with Instagram at Craft Beer Jeremy, and then also on Facebook, so facebook.com/Craft Beer Advocate. And don't forget to check out the website, so www.craftbeeradvocate.co.uk. And I'd love to hear from you guys and what you think.